I'm Kieran Lynch and welcome to OviCast, the Teagasc Sheep podcast. Each episode will bring latest insights, advice and technical updates for the sheep industry. We're joined in this week's episode by sheep specialist Damian Costello to discuss the sheep welfare scheme. Damian gives a bit of background to the scheme and we've all discussed the change in the reference number for the coming year and what this will mean for participants. Damian reminds us of the various tasks in the current scheme and we discuss the proposed changes for the plan next phase and the suggested payment rate. Damian also reminds us of the importance of maintaining records and necessary receipts for the coming year. Finally, we move on to discussing the options for new entrants joining the scheme. We start off, however, with Damian giving us a bit of background to the scheme itself.
The sheep welfare scheme was initially launched as a 4-year scheme. It started off in 2017, so it covers the years 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. So farmers were paid €10 per eligible ewe. And again, we're talking about here is breeding ewes and replacement ewe lambs are eligible once they reach 12 months of age. They also had to take on a couple of actions as well as that in order to qualify for the payments. So the options for the actions were different depending on whether you were dealing with a lowland or a hill farm. And at the moment, I think there's in the region of about 18,000 sheep farmers participating in the current sheep welfare scheme. So it has been extended in for the years 2021 and 2022. So that takes us right up to the next cap period, which commences in 2023. So the current scheme year we're in is running from the 1st of February 2021 up to the 31st of January 2022. So I suppose the initial reference number was based on the average of what a farmer had on his census returns in the years 2014 and 2015. And assuming that eligibility criteria were met in terms of the measures chosen by the applicant, along with maintaining the eligible ewe numbers at or above the reference number, then the farmer was paid €10 per ewe annually based on that reference number that he started out with.
Damian, there are some changes in this going forward and many of the participants will have got notified via letter last week about those. You might outline what they are.
Yeah, that's right. I suppose in a press release last January, Minister McConalogue indicated that in view of the rollover of the scheme for the further 2 years, that he had sought approval to change the reference year to reflect the numbers that were beyond the 2017 census returns. And this approval was duly granted. And last week, as you say, scheme participants would have been receiving letters confirming their position. So on this letter, the existing reference number was quoted, along with the number that was recorded on the 2017 census returns. And the new reference number is now the higher of these two figures. So this reference number will apply for the current scheme year, and it will also apply for the 2022 scheme year. So for some farmers where flock numbers have been relatively stable, the figures are largely similar. However, there are cases, where a farmer might have been building ewe numbers during that period, and this can result in a higher payment.
Damian, just on that one, what's the implication for a farmer whose numbers might have dropped since 2017?
Yes, if the number of eligible ewes on the most recent census returns is lower than the reference number, then this is the number he will be paid on. And again, as we've always said, it's important for farmers, if there are changes, particularly changes down in numbers, that they notify the department in writing of any such change.
It might be no harm, Damian, just for a quick recap on the current actions that's in the programme.
There are different options. If we take the lowland first, Kieran, the man with a lowland flock, he has basically two categories to choose from. So in category A, he can choose either lameness control or mineral supplementation of ewes post-mating. So he needs to choose one of those. And in category B, then he has three options to choose one from: parasite control, fecal egg count measure. There's the scanning measure, scanning his ewes and recording, and there's also a measure in relation to fly strike control. So the options are slightly different then for a hill flock. In category A, they can choose between mineral supplementation of ewes post-mating, or meal feeding of lambs post-weaning, training them into eating concentrates. So they pick one of those. And in category B, they also have the parasite control one, the fecal egg count. They also have the scanning. But the other, the third option for the hill flock is mineral supplementation of lambs pre-weaning.
Okay, so that's the current scheme. There are proposed changes for the new scheme that will come on board from 2023 onward. You might take us through what we know about that so far.
That's right, Kieran. Yeah, as I said, the current sheep welfare scheme runs for this year and next year, and there's a proposal then for a scheme from 2023 up to 2027, and it's really a continuation of the current scheme. It's going to be known as the Sheep Improvement Scheme. So the actions to be undertaken by applicants are largely the same as we have in the current scheme, with an additional mandatory measure involving the purchase of a 4 or 5 star ram that has been genotyped. Now, all applicants must complete this action at least once during the scheme, and where the flock is over 150 ewes, the action needs to be completed twice. So in other words, 2 rams, two 4 or 5 star genotyped rams will be needed on flocks of over 150 ewes. For the hill flocks then, if they're purchasing a hill breed ram, there may be limited numbers of breeders that are flock recording with Sheep Ireland. So a genotyped sire verified hill breed ram will qualify for the action in this case. I suppose we'll have to wait really for the terms and conditions, for the finer details of how this particular measure will operate. It's new, so there are lots of questions out there. And some farmers have been asking questions like, for example, if I have a 4 or 5 star genotyped ram or rams already on the farm, will this satisfy the measure? They're also asking, we'll say, if you have a 4 or 5 star stock ram that's there, but may not necessarily have been genotyped, can the farmer go ahead now and get the ram genotyped, and will this meet the scheme requirements? So these are the type of questions, I suppose, that unfortunately we don't have clear answers to, Kieran, at the minute, but all these issues should become clearer when the terms and conditions of the scheme become available.
Hopefully we'll find a bit more as the time comes closer. And Damian, will the payment be at the same rate?
I suppose a bit of good news on the payment front. There's a modest increase from the €10 per ewe that's been paid in the current scheme. It's been increasing. It's been increased up to €12 per ewe. And on the payment side of things as well, Kieran, I think the advance payment for the current year has been hitting bank accounts, I think, in recent days, or certainly in the next few days. It has been announced that the advance payments are being issued. The other important thing, just I suppose, is for participants in the scheme, we always say it's important that they keep their records up to date on a regular basis, and also to keep relevant receipts and paperwork for actions they're taking under the scheme.
And Damian, just for those that aren't part of the scheme already, is there an option there for new entrants to join it?
New entrants will be accepted for the 2022 scheme. In previous years, the requirement was that they were say new to sheep in the previous year, or that they hadn't had sheep on the farm for, I think it was 2 years beforehand. So if there are people that feel that they may be eligible as new entrants, they should contact the Sheep Welfare Scheme office in January 2022, expressing an interest in joining the scheme. So each case then will be examined by the Department of Agriculture on an individual basis to determine if they're eligible or not. And of course, a 2021 sheep census needs to be submitted by these people always, as with all sheep farmers, I suppose. So yes, the option will be there for new entrants, but as I say, it will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
Eamon, great having you on. Thanks very much for the update.
No problem, Kieran.
We're going to finish the episode up at this point. Again, as Damian highlighted there in his closing remarks, it's very important that you maintain the records and any necessary receipts if you're part of the scheme. That's it for me for this episode. Again, for any updates on our sheep program, keep an eye on our Twitter page at Teagasc Sheep. I'm Kieran Lynch. Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe and listen in to any of our episodes.